right into it today. Featuring Butter, you may hear him per usual. It's been a couple of weeks since I posted a video, and I thought that this next vlog was going to be about the cost of consistency and being disciplined and all that good stuff. And then I had time with Guy yesterday where he dealt with me on people pleasing, and I just believe that there are a lot of us who are guilty of people pleasing, whether it's strangers, whether it's friends and family. I think we're probably more so guilty with anyone that we're close to want to do whatever it takes to make them happy. And I never saw myself as a people pleaser because I really didn't care what people thought necessarily. But I realized, like, as my mom has transitioned on, that I did whatever I could to please her, to make her happy, because that's what brought me joy. And so I can find myself being guilty of compromising and settling for a lesser version of myself just to make someone else happy, just to be accepted and not have to deal with rejection. And so this video is going to be short, it's going to be sweet, to just have us help each other be accountable to making a choice to no longer have a desire or just have the continuous habit or mindset to be a people pleaser. And so, of course, I started to just like look into what is a people pleaser, because I mean, come on, you got to get the real definition for things. And then once you can have an awareness of what something is, you've identified that this is what you are guilty of. One, you're not alone in it, which is great. But then now let's list out things to help us no longer continue this habit, continue this routine, or just, whatever it is. So I came up with a few things, and the first thing that I had to do was, so with my job, as we like framework learners to figure out why they're wanting to pursue a particular educational program, it's super big to know the why. And I feel like the why is your motive, the why is your passion, the why is the root of it all. And that's going to be the thing to either keep you in the habit of doing something, keep you going, or can be the thing to allow you to stop if it's something that needs to be stopped. So I said, okay, what is the why? Why did I become a people pleaser? Started, of course, in my childhood, growing up in the church. And I remember kind of just like being on the sideline, and I was seeing my sisters and a group of girls doing praise dancing, and it was just something about it where I was like, oh, like, I'm drawn to this, right? And keep in mind, I'm like the youngest one. I'm like 5 or 6 at this time. And, they let me join in on the praise dance. And from even that moment, it was being accepted. It was being loved. It was being appreciated. And I started to realize, oh, that's what I liked. It wasn't about necessarily the praise of people or the attention, but it was about the acceptance and the belonging. And at that time, I had already been realizing, well, not at that time, I didn't realize it, but now I realized I had already been living through rejection. And so from that moment, it was like the acceptance, the belonging kind of helped fill that void of the rejection that I was suppressing and not really dealing with. And so as I am now an adult, and I look back, like it was crazy. I literally wasn't even thinking about this. And I just believe that it was God that just showed me in my time of worship of this is where it started. Not to say that it's bad to do things in the church, but it was as a child in the church. This is what was appreciated. This is what had value. The more that you're doing, oh, you're so young and you are doing all these things in the church. And that's what got the attention of even like my mom and my stepdad and stuff. And so it's like, oh, let me keep doing this. The more I do this, the happier that they are. So let me keep doing this because it makes them happy. It makes them proud of me. not realizing that I was doing something out of the result of making someone else happy, making someone else accept me, making someone else proud of me. And it's like, now that I'm on my self-love journey, it's like, okay, but how does it make me feel? And I think that's one of the biggest things, is to, one, identify the why. Why did I become a people pleaser? Getting to that root of it, like really getting deep down in there. And it's not going to feel good. And so then I'm like, okay, I know my why now. I know I'm not happy doing it. I know I don't want to do this anymore. How can I change this? So the first thing that we can do is set and then maintain clear boundaries. We have to start like just on this journey, and it's gonna be like the waves in the ocean. We're gonna have ups and downs, but we have to identify and set and maintain, emphasis on the maintain, clear boundaries. Like, this is what I'm okay with, this is what I'm not okay with. And to a degree, yes, if people do certain things or say certain things, we have the right to be upset, but people can only do what we allow. And so that's one thing that I've had to learn, to have like a balance, not necessarily in blame, but in accountability and responsibility. So did they say this or do this and was it wrong? Yeah. But if it's continually happening, okay, at this point I'm allowing it to happen. And so now I have to look within myself on, did I set clear boundaries? Okay, if I did set clear boundaries, why didn't I maintain them? What was it about it? Was I fearful of being rejected? Was I fearful of being alone? Was I fearful of having someone upset with me? And I think a lot of times it was always not wanting to be rejected and just wanting to feel loved and cherished in those moments. And so I've had to revisit boundaries that I've set for myself, and now I'm currently working on how can I maintain these boundaries. And I've just realized my routine, oh my gosh, my routine plays a big factor in my self-love, my self-confidence, maintaining boundaries and not caring if people walk away or don't want to be in my life because they don't want to respect those boundaries. At the end of the day, I have to respect myself first. And if that means walking alone, so be it. That is going to be a part of the process. This self-love journey, it gets lonely sometimes, but you're not alone. Like, you eventually get to a place of where you are content with just being with yourself, by yourself, and just in love with your own presence, your own company. And that is okay. The right people will come in your life, the right people will stay in your life, and some people are meant to come and then leave for a season. Sometimes we're holding on to people way past their seasons, and so we got to learn how to, let go. I also had to realize we have to know how and when to say no without even having to explain it. A lot of times if we say yes, people don't ask why we said yes, but if we say no to something, well, why not? I don't have to explain my no. If I said yes, you wouldn't have asked me why I said yes. So let's have that same fair, just level field. If I say no, I said what I said, and that's on that. Now, some things can require an explanation. If it's connected to certain boundaries that you already have set for yourself, people are not going to know your boundaries unless you verbally communicate what your boundaries are. So communication is key with that. So occasionally you may need to say no because of this boundary, or no because of this boundary that I mentioned prior to, and just leave it at that. And you don't have to explain anything else. And if people don't like it, that's on them. That's a them problem. Okay. Another thing, I was listening to a podcast with Trent Shelton, shout out to him, and it was basically just giving me the reminder to stop settling for a lesser version of yourself. And now we have butter here. But basically it was a reminder to stop settling for a lesser version of yourself. I find myself, anytime where I am not at peace, anytime where I am frustrated and overwhelmed and just, I don't know, like I just know I'm not happy. I have to realize why. And I start to see, oh, there I go again, settling for a lesser version of myself, where I'm compromising things that I don't need to compromise, or I'm doing things to where I'm overexerting myself, overextending myself, and putting other people's not even needs but wants above my own needs. And that is not okay. So when you can identify that, I'm quick to be like, okay, all right, hold on, we're gonna have to pivot, we're gonna have to readjust, we're gonna have to refocus. And in order to do that, I have to seek God. I've learned that in my routine, starting the day with Him, even still, continually like throughout the day, communicating with Him, but definitely starting the day with Him in His presence, not even having to say anything, but positioning my heart, positioning my spirit to just hear Him. And so sometimes just getting outside and going for a walk, or that's like the biggest thing, honestly, getting outside, going for a walk or going for a drive, and He'll just start to download things. And at least to me, I feel like that's Him speaking to me in those moments, because I started having awareness of things that I have no idea where they came from. So I'm like, yeah, that had to be God. And I realized distractions can come, temptations can come to take you out of your right position. When you already know, okay, starting the day with God, doing this in the morning, doing this in the evening, this is how I stay connected to Him. This is how I get more clarity on things. This is how I'm more disciplined. This is how I maintain my boundaries. Things are going to come up to distract you, to take you off focus, to take you off your right path. And so in those moments, I just get mad. Not necessarily at myself. Well, I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I would get mad at myself, but I'll just get mad because sometimes I'm like, okay, God allowed the enemy to set up this kind of situation. And I just fell right into it because I knew better and didn't do better. Like, what you got going on? Like, so sometimes I dwell in it. Sometimes I beat myself up. I'm hard on myself. And I'm learning, don't be hard on yourself. Just now that you know you got off track, because we have such a merciful and graceful God, we have another chance to just get right back on track. And I'm guilty of trying to take control, to put myself on track, and the track that I think I'm supposed to be on, instead of sitting back to say, okay, God, your word says to be still and know that you are God. And so I'm going to be still. And it doesn't always necessarily just physically be still, but mentally. Just even if I'm at work, still having the mind to be still and have an open heart to just really see what it is that He has to say. What track am I supposed to be on? What path am I supposed to be on? How can I take this fall? How can I take this journey, this experience to help grow me up and grow me closer to You? That's where I am in life right now. Is I don't care how many times I mess up. I don't care how many times I fall. God, I'm coming back to You because I know You are my Father, and I know You're not going to push me away. You're not going to reject me. You're not going to beat me up. You're not going to treat me the way I deserve to be treated, in my opinion. And so because I know You love me and You're here for me and You're always there with open arms, when I fall, the enemy wants me to feel like I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough to come to You, that You're not going to love me anymore because what I've done, I knew did not make You proud, but I did it anyways. So how could You love me? How could You still want relationship with me? And the enemy will want you to believe these thoughts. And I'm here to tell you it's not true. When the enemy starts to bring negative thoughts into your mind, I promise you there is a scripture for everything. And it's good to have a few scriptures to hold on to, because those will be the things to remind you of what God has to say concerning you, concerning us. And He loves us, and He's here to forgive us and just heal us from the inside out. And we just have to submit. We get so caught up in ourselves and ego and what I want, and then we get caught up in the world and doing what the world's doing and what's popular and all this. Like, no. All of those things are distractions. How can I come to God, my Father, my friend and say, I messed up, but I want to do right. And I not only want to make you proud of me, but I want to make myself proud. And I think I found myself realizing that's where I get peace. I've had to make so many tough decisions throughout the past few years where family and friends didn't understand or they didn't like it, but it brought me peace. And because I stood up for myself, because I said no, because I set and maintained those boundaries, and I didn't settle for a lesser version of myself, because I said, you know what, this situation, these habits, this kind of relationship, it's not serving me anymore. It's not growing me anymore. It's toxic. It's harming me. It's hurting me. And I'm tired. And enough is enough. And if you don't want to grow with me, that's fine. I will do this alone. And in a sense, I'm still not alone because God got me. He has me covered. And so I had to step out and live against the grain. Like, there was a song where it's like, we don't ride the wave, we create it. Like, yeah, I'm going to create this wave where I'm going to live against the grain, and I'm not going to care about what's popular to you. If you feel like I'm lame because I don't want to do what everybody else is doing, if you want to feel like I'm lame because I'm living a life and doing things that make me happy, that bring me peace and have me content with myself, then lame is charged. I will happily and proudly live against the grain. And people are not going to always understand that. It's not, once again, that's a them problem. But you got to do what makes you proud. It does not always feel good to always say no and take that risk of being rejected, not having friends, having people betray you and walk away, whatever the case may be. It does not feel good. It doesn't feel good to have people that you admire, people that you love, try to say things to make you feel guilty for standing up for yourself and what's right for you. Some people will speak out of their own fears and limitations. And you have to know, like, you got to be so rooted in your relationship with God to know when He's speaking and when you're doing something that you know is best for your life and your growth. And so that's all I have to share today. That as a recovering people pleaser, you're not going to always be perfect. And it's not about being perfect. It's about being perfected. And the difference with that is that the world will say perfect means to do no wrong, have no flaws, have no imperfections. But to be perfect, biblically, it's to be made whole. And so I'm going to mess up. I'm going to fall. The word says I'm going to, not if, but when I fall. That God can still pick me up. He can still put the pieces of my broken heart together. And He can make it stronger than it was before. He can make us whole. He can make us content to know that it does not matter who walks away. It does not matter who does not want to be in your life. It does not matter who does not like you. It does not matter who talks about you behind your back. At the end of the day, when you have the one who created you, when you got your bro, when you got your spiritual guide with you, rocking with you every step of the way, that should really be all that matters. Ever since my mom transitioned, that has been the journey that I've been on. And it hasn't always been easy. I've been guilty of listening to family and friends telling me, oh, you gotta get out there and you gotta meet people. And I was like, I'm at peace though. It's less distractions this way. I'm focused. I'm getting things done. I'm healing. He's literally uprooting things in my stillness. In the silence of the moments, He is uprooting a lot of things in me. And I'm crying and I'm purging and just letting all these things out. And it does not feel good at the time, but then I can wake up and I feel lighter. The process is not pretty, but it's worth it. Too many of us want to be like the glass of water that when you go into the freezer, you turn into ice. When you go back into the room environment, you turn into water. Like, you keep changing to conform to whatever is around you. Instead of having a goal to be like the piece of paper. That process does not smell good. Like, to go from a tree to the piece of paper, it doesn't smell good. It doesn't look good. It takes a lot more time, the cutting, the grinding, the uprooting, all of that. But once it turns into that piece of paper, it's forever the piece of paper. It doesn't matter if you cut it up, crumble it up, put it in around all the trees and the bushes and the woods. It's not going to turn back into that tree. It's going to stay the piece of paper. And that should be our goal. That God is working in us and through us and cutting and uprooting so many things that when we do go around certain people, because what he wants is he wants to remove us from certain places and from certain people for a season, because he needs to grow us, he needs to heal us, he needs to transform us and evolve us. So that way, when the season comes to get back around those same people and in those same environments, we're not going to conform back to how we used to be, but we're going to be the new creature, and we're going to draw them to the light. We're going to draw them to want to grow. We're going to draw them to want to transform. We're going to draw them to want to know God, because they're going to say they know who you were. They know how you were. I love how randomly I've had people that I've gone to school with. I lived life in college and in high school and in middle school. I've lived life, okay? So it feels good when people will randomly, out of the blue, find an old post or a video from even back then where it was showing the transition from how I was to who I was becoming. Where I was like, dang, I didn't even remember I was still talking like that back then. Okay. The seeds were planted. The seeds were starting to grow in that moment. Okay, thank you. Or just people that they know how you were, and they may not be in a position to want to change. They still doing stuff, but they know how you were. And they're like, yo, I'm proud of you. Like, I know how things were with you, and just to see how you are now, like, that's dope. And those people may not want to be your friend. They may not want to kick it with you, but they respect you. And I've learned in life that as I learn to love myself, I'd rather be respected than accepted. We don't have to be friends. We don't have to hang out. We don't have to call each other. I don't have to conform to your lifestyle that no longer serves my purpose or no longer brings me joy and peace. But you respect me. So you gonna respect who I am, how I am, what I'm willing to do and not do. I'll pick that over being friends with someone who wants to change me back to who I used to be. Any day. And I'm happy about that, because there was a time in my life when I did not have the courage to say that I'll choose respect over acceptance. And so I want to give you that challenge. If you are someone who wants to overcome being a people pleaser, it starts with our mindset. To one, know that we are good enough. We are capable of changing. We are capable of transforming and evolving. We are. We have it in us. Stop just living out of potential. Potential leads to, all these different possibilities, but it's not reality. It's a possibility. Let's start living against the grain. Let's start living out the mindset that I'd rather be respected than accepted. I'd rather you not want to be my friend because you know who I have become, and you don't want to disrespect me by trying to cause me to conform to your ways or back to old ways that no longer bring me joy and peace. All day. So on this journey, one, if you haven't already, identify the why, the root. And it's not going to happen in a second. It may take some time for God to show you, where did this need to please people come from? But first, seek Him for that why. 2, set and then maintain clear boundaries for yourself to respect yourself first. 3, knowing how and when to say no without any explanation. Let your no be no, your yes be yes, and your maybe be maybe, or your not yet be not yet. You don't have to explain yourself. Next, stop settling for a lesser version of yourself. Stop settling for the potential. Start living against the grain. Start living for respect and not acceptance. This life is not about being perfect. It's about being perfected, being made whole, being healed, living in peace. And again, I know I've said this in a previous video, living in peace does not mean that everything is going to be going right. But it's going to mean that despite the grief, despite the unemployment, despite the car troubles, despite living paycheck to paycheck, despite not knowing where the money's going to come from, despite feeling alone and not having family around, in spite of all that, that you are content, you have a sense of joy, and that peace looks like you don't even realize how hard life is hitting you right now until someone maybe mentions something, and then you take a moment to look back like, dang, it's been real in these streets, and it's ghetto out here. But I'm grateful though. I'm grateful because out of all of this chaos going on, out of all of this turmoil going on, I'm still content. I'm still at peace. And I don't have to do anything to please anybody else. Like, I'm here on this journey. And as I cry and be vulnerable and transparent, I'm healing. And I'm helping someone else get free too. So just know you are not alone in this. We are in this together. You're not going to get everything right. When you fall, get back up. Know that you can get back up. If you're trying something and it's not working, you got to try something else. Sometimes in order to get things that you've never had, you got to do things you've never done. And it's going to require sacrifice. It's going to require discipline. It's going to require not always knowing the answers. It's going to require submission and releasing control to just let God do what he does. There's going to be a requirement from us. And we got to be willing to put in the work. We got to be willing to make the sacrifices. We got to be willing to go through the hard times that don't feel good to reap the harvest. So my challenge for you is to live against the grain. Peacefully. So until next week, prayerfully, I hope you all have a great day, night, morning, whatever time of day it is for you right now. Yeah. Peace and self-love, you guys.